It's a new year and a new episode of The Proof. But one thing remains the same from year to year, and that is our promise to help you see through the misinformation, disinformation, and fake news that we're inundated with daily. Today, we address a present issue that will affect the global information landscape. Mark Zuckerberg, the CEO of Meta, has announced a significant policy shift which phases out Meta's third-party fact-checking program and replaces it with a system of community-driven notes similar to what we've seen on the X platform. This decision has sparked widespread concern among fact-checkers and truth advocates worldwide. I'm Dashen Usman, and this is The Proof, powered by Africa Check. Joining me to unpack the implications of Meta's policy shift regarding fact-checking is Lee Mwiti, the chief editor of Africa Check. Lee, it's a pleasure to have you on the program.
Thank you, Dashen. It's a pleasure to be here.
Now let's begin with the basics. Could you explain the original purpose and structure of Meta's third-party fact-checking program? Why did it become so critical in the fight against misinformation?
So Meta's third-party fact-checking program started in 2016 to help fight misinformation on the company's platforms, which include Facebook and Instagram. So what Meta did was to partner with independent fact-checking organizations such as ourselves and who are certified by the International Fact-Checking Network, or the IFCN for short, and which is based at the Poynter Institute in the US, to verify claims of interest that had been flagged by users of these platforms. So ourselves as a fact checkers would then assess the accuracy of information or of the claims that had been flagged, and if something was false or misleading based on the evidence that we were able to research, then we would attach an article to Meta's platforms that explained why this was the case. Meta then used that evidence to either label content, flag to users that this content that they were seeing on their news feeds was problematic, or they used that evidence or that article that fact checkers had written to throttle its reach. So in the case of repeat offenders, those accounts were subsequently disadvantaged, which included their ability to monetize on Meta's platforms. It is important to note that fact checkers did not remove content, accounts, or pages. This was done by Meta.
Why do you think Meta phased out third-party fact-checking? How is it justifying this decision?
So as a point of clarification, the third-party fact-checking program is as of now being ended only in the US. But it will not be far-fetched to opine that it is only a matter of time before that change becomes global. Meta founder Mark Zuckerberg claimed he made his decision because he believed the program, the third-party fact-checking program, was potentially biased and had become a censorship tool. From our perspective as fact-checkers, this is simply not true and should be seen in the light of Zuckerberg's attempt to curry favor with the incoming administration of President Donald Trump. Indeed, Trump has himself said the end of the fact-checking program was probably as a result of threats he made against Zuckerberg.
A large number of the world's fact-checkers have written an open letter to Mark Zuckerberg about Meta's move. This open letter comes 9 years after the one written concerning the real-world harms caused by false information on Facebook. Lee, what is the content of this recent letter?
In a nutshell, our letter says that Meta ending its third-party fact-checking program is a big step backwards for the work done so far to promote accurate information online and to reduce the real-world harms of false information. Our letter stresses that fact-checking is essential for healthy individuals and democracies, and also makes a call for more investment in public service journalism.
What are the key concerns raised by the letter about Meta's decision?
Thank you for that question. It's a very important one. So, as fact-checkers, we are concerned that ending fact-checking on Meta's platforms will likely result in a surge of false and misleading information online. This has the potential to undermine public trust, including in the media, on social media platforms, and in governments themselves. We also highlight the concern that misinformation can lead to serious consequences for individuals, but also for societies, including political instability election interference, and even violence. We believe that access to accurate information is vital for healthy societies, and Meta's decision threatens that fundamental right.
Now, Zuckerberg has suggested that the fact-checking program itself is flawed and biased. How does the letter counter these claims, and what evidence supports the effectiveness of fact-checking efforts to date?
So we are countering Zuckerberg's claims by highlighting the strict processes followed by certified fact-checkers who use evidence-based methods to ensure accuracy. To be part of the Meta third-party fact-checking program, fact-checking organizations had to meet extremely rigorous standards, which were assessed by the International Fact-Checking Network every year. Indeed, Meta itself, which is quite interesting, has praised the standards that fact-checkers had to meet, and as recently as last year boasted that its third-party fact-checking program was an industry standard. So we also pointed out as fact-checkers that we did not have the ability to remove content or accounts or pages on Meta's platforms. That was a prerogative of Meta, which implemented this through its community standards policies, which rightly censored those who threaten the safety, the harm, the trust of individuals and communities. We are also countering Zuckerberg's claims by highlighting that research shows that fact-checking effectively reduces the spread of false information, helping users make better informed decisions. So while by no means perfect, the evidence shows that the program largely worked and was not biased.
Thanks, Lee. What are the potential consequences of ending the fact-checking program globally?
Ending the fact-checking program globally could have serious consequences. It will likely lead to an increase in the spread of misinformation, especially in regions where media and digital literacy is already low or where there's less regulation, and that includes a lot of our African countries. As we have seen in a number of countries around the world, misinformation can fuel political instability, interfere with elections, and even incite violence. In a world where social media is a key information source, the absence of independent fact-checking could erode public trust and leave people vulnerable to harmful falsehoods.
Now, one of the key shifts is Meta's reliance on community notes. Critics argue that this approach could amplify bias rather than mitigate it. What are your thoughts on the viability of this alternative?
Well, if well or properly conceptualized, the community notes approach has potential, but it also risks amplifying bias without expert oversight. Crowdsourced systems often tend to favor popular and often partisan opinion over factual accuracy, making them less reliable. On X, which Zuckerberg cited as an example, we have seen this is often the case, in addition to our observation that very few community notes on that platform are actually shown or surfaced to users. So clear guidelines, accountability, and expert involvement are going to be essential to ensure that the process of using community notes remains evidence-based and free from manipulation. Without these safeguards, it could spread more harm than good.
Finally, Lee, what's your message to Meta and big tech companies regarding social media misinformation?
So my message and our message to Meta and other big tech companies in the information resilience space is to not think of misinformation as just a technical problem. It's a societal challenge that has real life consequences, that has real world harms. So every country has unique cultural and political dynamics, and platforms like Meta wield enormous influence over global conversations. So big tech companies have a responsibility to prioritize truth, to prioritize equity, and to put the public good first. So this isn't the time, certainly not for Meta, to give up or to capitulate to partisanship as we are seeing as is currently happening.
Thank you for joining us today, Lee, and also for sharing your insights.
Thank you for having me.
That's all for today's episode of The Proof, powered by Africa Check.